Le 13 février 2023. Aujourd'hui, on a vu des champs. C'est beau, la campagne. Il y a des champs, des fermes, des champs. Et parfois des fermes dans des champs. Ça dégage une sacrée odeur, par contre. Un mélange d'engrais et de fumier étalé sur des centaines d'hectares. Celui-ci sent plus la fermentation, celui-ci l'urine porcine, et celui-là me rappelle un ex à l'hygiène rudimentaire. Je suis devenue une vraie spécialiste. Un nez, comme on dit, mais uniquement à base d'odeurs issues de l'agriculture. Je doute que ça me soit d'une quelconque utilité dans la vie. J'imagine que personne ne voudra acheter un flacon de purin sauvage The New Fragrance by Madame White. Alors que j'hésitais entre Léa Seydoux et Mélanie Laurent pour être l'égérie de ma marque, j'ai entendu une voix m'interpeller. J'ai immédiatement pilé pour saisir l'occasion qui m'était offerte d'apporter un peu d'inattendu dans cette journée trop prévisible. Parle-moi, inconnu providentiel, du Brexit, de fish and chips, ou même de la pluie et du beau temps. Ou même que de la pluie d'ailleurs, vu qu'ici le beau temps... Il s'appelle Daniel. Il rentrait chez lui à vélo, et en nous voyant pédaler avec autant de sacoches, il s'est demandé quelle était notre route. À peine quelques mots et quelques rires échangés, qu'il nous propose de rester chez lui pour la nuit. Sa générosité se lit sur son visage. Nous le suivons jusqu'à une jolie maison, entourée d'un beau jardin. Autour d'une tasse de thé bien chaude, nous apprenons qu'en plus de son travail de recherche autour du sida, Daniel cultive et vend les produits de son jardin. Il est maintenant à la retraite, mais reste très engagé en étant membre du Parti écologiste de Grande-Bretagne.
Yesterday you told us you call that not a farm actually because it's smaller than a farm.
Yeah, small holding.
Holding.
In English, the word is small holding.
All right, and the difference is really because of the hectare you.
Yeah, simply the
use.
size.
All right,
Yeah,
the size.
yeah. In the Highlands, where you've been travelling, have you heard the term crofts? The crofts.
Not sure, no.
It's the small farms in the Highlands.
Okay.
And a croft is like a small holding.
All right.
But it has a special status in Scottish law because there's a long history of the landlords pushing out the Highlanders. There's a terrible history in the 19th century where thousands, tens of thousands of people were told to leave the land and go and live in Glasgow, live in Edinburgh, or because they wanted just to have sheep.
All right.
On the in the Highlands, and many villages got abandoned.
All right.
And then they brought in a law to protect the rights of the small farmers, who are the crofters.
But years after that.
But in the end of the 19th century, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 1890s or something, to protect the few who were left.
All right.
And so in the Highlands, there's special laws to protect crofters. But that's not here.
Okay.
These trees and this hedge, we're trying to grow as much as possible because this is where the wind comes from. Serious wind.
Okay.
And you know, I mentioned this storm we had,
2 years
this
ago?
terrible storm 2 years ago. This greenhouse was destroyed.
Oh, okay.
This fence was blown down.
Yeah, it was serious.
So we're wanting to grow a windbreak there. When we were looking to buy some land, we wanted a small area of land just for an orchard.
Okay.
And we spent a long, long time looking, 10 years, over 10 years.
All right.
Going around the country. We were living at the time, we lived in Edinburgh. And we're looking for maybe 1 hectare or even less. And it's a very long story, but we ended up with this place, which is bigger than we planned.
So you said how many hectares here?
It's nearly 2 hectares here.
Okay.
So we thought we'll encourage other people to use it as well. And it's very good land. For Scotland, it's really good farming land.
All right.
And so do you know the term rewilding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring back wildlife.
Bring back wildlife and let the woodland grow, the forest grow, and so on. Now, I think that's a really valuable idea. It's great.
Okay.
And there's a particular person who's championed this called George Monbiot,
Okay.
who I have a lot of respect for. I read
Scottish guy.
English.
English.
He's written a lot of books. He's an environmental activist, journalist.
Okay.
And he's written a lot about rewilding. And I agree with most of his arguments. But on good land, we should be growing food,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be for animals. It should be for humans.
Okay.
That's my view.
Okay.
So up there in the hills there, the Lammermuir Hills, this is where you should have rewilding.
Okay. Okay. Because you can't use it.
It's very poor land.
Okay.
And it's now much of it is used for grouse shooting. Grouse is a wild bird, small bird like this, about the size of a hen, and huge areas there. They have grouse, and then in the summer, people come to shoot them.
All right.
And huge, thousands of acres.
All right.
And they burn the heather. The grouse like eating the heather.
All right.
And they don't like trees because they prefer the heather growing.
Okay.
And so it's all for the chasse.
All right.
It's crazy. But our main work has been the orchard.
Uh-huh.
And we sell about 1.5 tons
All right.
of apples and fruit in the season. I think for a commercial farmer, serious big commercial farmer, it'd be very little.
Okay. But for you?
But for us, we're happy with it.
All right.
But I once calculated how many hours I spend working here and how much money we earn. And if I relied just on this, I think I would be paid £3 an hour.
Oh, wow. That's really little.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't it? All right. Okay.
So it's not, and that's without paying for the land, without paying for the trees, without, So commercially, it's not viable.
All right.
Luckily, I had another job. I was a professional researcher, and my wife was a professional working in the health service. And now we're retired.
Do you feel like you get help from the government to grow farm like this?
We've not had any grants, no financial help at all.
All right.
Because we are in the existing system for government grants for farming. The big farmers, like this field here, he owns about maybe 500, let's say 500 acres, so 200 hectare here, and then he has another farm near Edinburgh with maybe 500 hectare.
Oh, okay.
Huge farm.
Good farm.
In this field here, he's grown wheat, barley. It's always cereals, so very bad for the soil. Big farmers like that, about a third of their income is from the government, from us, from taxpayers.
Okay.
Small farmers, and particularly vegetable and fruit growers, get nothing.
All right.
There's no grants for vegetable and fruit growing. But this was under the old system that we had from the European Union.
Okay.
And now there's a lot of debate in the Scottish government and also in the Westminster for the UK how to change the grants for farmers. And I think it will improve.
Okay.
And there's a lot of lobbying. Do you know the word lobbying? Trying to influence what the new policy will be.
Okay.
And the big farmers want to keep it the old way. But there's more and more people saying, no, we must fund environmental farming, agroecology, small farms, fruit growing, and so on. So there's a big debate at the moment. Typically, the farmer has a big plough that turns the soil right over. And now there are more people realising this is bad for the soil organisms, bad for the worms, and it releases a lot of carbon. Right. And if you can leave the soil unploughed, untilled, and sow directly into the soil, it's much better for the soil. And there are some big farms, and there's one over maybe 2-3 miles away, where they are experimenting with this approach, which is very good. But it requires, for these big farmers to do this, it requires a lot of herbicides. Because if you plough, the weeds, the seed goes into the soil. If you don't plough, then there's lots of weeds. So they spray with glyphosate. So there's no simple answers. Of course, biodiversity is terribly important, and there's a crisis with biodiversity. But we must recognise that gardening, horticulture is drastically modifying biodiversity, inevitably. As soon as you cut the grass or you turn the soil, you're having an impact on millions of organisms, little micro-organisms.
Le 14 février 2023. Alors là, on ne pouvait pas rêver mieux comme rencontre. Ça aurait pu être un joueur de cornemuse, ou pire, un joueur de cornemuse en kilt. Au lieu de ça, on tombe sur une personne affable et pédagogue qui nous prouve que tous les champs ne sentent pas aussi fort qu'une paire d'espadrilles après une journée de marche. C'est certain, notre ferme sentira la violette. Nos moutons, si on en a un jour, fertiliseront nos champs de leurs excréments aux senteurs poivrées et boisées. Le vent portera ce parfum jusque dans les narines des cyclistes qui s'ennuient sur les routes. Là, ils reconnaîtront la délicate odeur que tout le monde s'arrache chez Sephora. Ce parfum mystérieux qui avait fait s'affronter Léa Seydoux et Mélanie Laurent pour le rôle d'égérie. Ils viendront alors par milliers jusqu'à notre ferme et nous distribueront des paniers de légumes à chacun d'entre eux. Le monde sentira bon et les gens mangeront bio. Waouh. Faut vraiment que je trouve quelqu'un d'autre à qui parler.